Welcome to Get the Facts, the program that provides you with information on government's policies and initiatives. I'm Theodore Henry. Artificial intelligence is rapidly transforming the way we work, communicate, and learn, and the education sector is no exception. Recognizing the need to prepare educators for this changing landscape, One Academy, a product of one-on-one educational services, recently hosted its Future Ready Educators Summit 2.0. The summit focused on equipping educators with practical strategies and tools to navigate the opportunities and the challenges presented by AI. So joining us today to share key insights from the summit and discuss how teachers can effectively harness AI in education is President and Chief Executive Officer of One-on-One Educational Services, Ricardo Allen. Thanks for joining us, Sir Allen.
Thanks for having me, Theodore.
All right, let's talk about some AI in the classroom. So from where you sit, how do you see AI most commonly being used right now?
Theodore, AI is perhaps the biggest invention that has ever happened in humankind. And that's my view,
okay.
Right? And I believe that right now, teachers and students are seeing the superpower of this. It's giving everybody escape and all of that. They're superhuman with this tool, and they're using it, and they should.
Okay.
Within the classroom now, I'll give you the classical example. You have teachers, they want to assign, for example, an assignment, and even if you go beyond that or before that, the teacher plans their lesson.
Right.
So they're using artificial intelligence to, plan what they want to teach to their students. And that's fine because it gives them all these great ideas about how to bring information and facts across to the students. You have to understand that, historically, teachers spend their entire Sundays and weekends preparing lesson plans, and it takes a lot away from them, so they're using AI to do that.
Right.
Once the lesson is ready, what they're using AI to do again is to come up with notes and so on that they can send to the students, right? So they don't have to write notes anymore or any of that. You just push it into your favorite AI and it gives you all the fantastic notes. You print it, gives to your students. Again, saves them time. On the student side, right, when they get those homework or assessments, the teacher would have created this. The student is going home and they're pushing it into AI, and the AI spits out the answer and they hand it back to the teacher.
Right.
Now, here's the last part of it. The teacher takes that assignment that has been given and they put it into AI to do the grading. So what's happening is that we have an entire workflow which is powered by AI. Everybody is doing what suits them best, right? The teacher, the students, and so on. The parents are involved too, right? So beyond the classroom, the parents, when they have to help the child to study or to, prepare for an exam,
ask the question,
they're taking the notes and so on, and it's guiding them to actually help the students. So everybody's using AI, everybody's having fun with it,
right.
And it's moving things along. Administrators are using it too to interpret data and so on. So all of this is happening at lightning speed. And here's the thing, nobody knows what comes next. Everyone is running very fast, and we need to know, as learners and educators, we need to look at it and see how best we use it to give students that superpower without taking away their autonomy in using these tools to make them better.
Without taking away their autonomy.
Yeah.
What about also without decreasing their ability to spend time and think through the matter? Critical thinking, which is a part of education also. Like how do we treat with that? How can teachers use the tool as a support and students use it as a support, but don't outsource your actual thinking?
And that's the big thing that we have to look at, and that's something that keeps me up at night at one-on-one. In fact, I just graduated as a fellow from Cambridge University.
Congrats.
Thank you so much. And Cambridge University, they are perhaps the longest serving assessment body in the world, right? It's right there in UK. Those are the guys who did the A levels and the GCSE. So I went there and I studied and I looked at everything that they were doing. I was also at Pearson's before that and so on. And here's some quick thoughts that I have. I want to give you the first one. The brain occupies roughly about 5% mass of your body, but uses 20% energy.
Right.
You know what that means? People are naturally going to find the easiest way to get things done. Your brain is an energy-saving mechanism. The reason I mention that is very simple. If you give them that tool that can do things faster and much better and easier, they're going to use it. So we can't stop people from using AI. Right. That's the point I'm making. You can't stop the teacher, you can't stop the child, you can't stop the parent.
Right.
The question is, how do we allow them to use it, but use it in a way that preserves thinking? Because my view on it is very simple, that what makes us human is our ability to think, problem solve, and if we can maintain this while using these tools, that's the ideal scenario. So the question is, how do we do that in a classroom example?
Right.
In our Future Ready Summit, we focus on this idea that teachers need to remain the architects of thinking.
Right.
What we mean by that is a simple analogy. When a teacher is in the classroom, your job is not to give information. We're past that. You know, the AI can spit out that information in a minute or two. Your job is not just to give an assessment and mark it whether someone got it right or wrong. In fact, the research tells us that for an assessment to be valid, is not whether you got it right or wrong, but can you infer information from it?
So reasoning ability.
Absolutely. It means, therefore, if you do an assessment and AI did the assessment, it's actually not a valid assessment.
Because you can't work your way out to the result.
That's it.
Okay.
So if a child comes with an assessment and they can't explain it, you don't have a valid assessment. That's what the research is telling us. So the fact is that how do you contend with that? How do you counter that? Well, I'll give you an example. Instead of giving a child an essay to go home and write and come back, one way to do it, for example, is to give a child a task to go home and argue with the AI on a position. The position could be World War II was economically necessary.
Right. And
your job is to back the AI in a corner and come back with the evidence. What you have done is to create friction and cause the student to now think and argue with the AI to prove their point is correct.
Right.
And so there are ways that the teachers are doing it. They can be creative in designing assessment, designing the learning such that it forces students to think and to do independent learning, and so that it produces exactly what education is for, is to cause information to stick for the long term, not just to produce answers. We need to move away from the answers.
Energy saving, time saving, but still having the quality of thinking your way through problems.
Absolutely.
All right, so more on this discussion with President and Chief Executive Officer of One-on-One Educational Services, Ricardo Allen, when we return. Stay with us.
The sun is no joke, especially in the middle of the day. So, what do you do to protect yourself?
Slap on some sunscreen that's SPF 30 or higher. Sunscreen should be broad spectrum and water resistant, especially for beach or pool days, and reapplied every 2 hours. And while you're at it, slip on a shirt to protect your skin. Light, breathable fabrics are best.
Lastly, seek shade between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. because this is when the sun's UV rays are strongest. Skin safety is your safety. Cover up today and try your best to keep cool. Oh, I know I've already said it, but please remember, not because we're black means we don't need sunscreen. All skin types do.
Welcome back to Get the Facts. We've explored how teachers can adapt and thrive in an AI-powered learning environment. Now let's turn our attention to the students. So, Sir Allen, part of what you pointed out, the students are doing prompting, they're pouring their stuff into the AI, they're getting their response. You've mentioned how important it is for teachers to create work that allows them to have to reason it through. So how are you seeing students actually using this effectively? You spoke about them arguing with the AI. Can you go into that some more?
Yeah, so what we're saying is that, and let me just kind of say something that's a little controversial. Reading is not biological. It's not normal. It's not natural. Your ability to read is actually not a natural process. In order to have read or learn how to read, your brain had to be rewired to use the thing that it knows how to do, which is to identify images and feel those different parts of the brain. And it had to connect them in such a way that it could actually see an image, characters in words
Right.
and interpret a meaning from it.
Okay.
That causes people to do what's called cognitive exercise. It makes your brain work a little better.
Okay.
AI threatens that because by giving someone the answer, you're taking away the very neural networks that were built and the strengthening of that through reading, for example, and you're just giving someone an answer.
So it does no work.
It does no work. So your brain does no work when that is involved. So the question is that how to preserve that without taking it away from the student. I explained the way where the teachers could be the architects of friction. What that means is that create opportunities for the students to think and to challenge, whether it is challenging the AI, whether it is challenging you, whether it is to explain the things that they have gotten to you as the teacher. Those are the things that we're talking about. But from a student standpoint, how do they use it and how do they use it better? And what are the kind of challenges? And let me just say this. The students are not going to get up one day and say, okay, I'm trying to protect my intellectual capacity. I'm going to ensure that I think.
Yeah,
that doesn't happen. So there needs to be a trigger.
Right.
So a few things. Number one, in order for learning to change, the assessment needs to be changed. Right? The way we are assessed is the way people teach to be assessed. Every classroom in Jamaica tries to complete a syllabus so that they can actually finish, so that they can do an exam. If we change the way that exam is done, people will automatically change the way they learn to get the information to be examined. What am I talking about? There's this thing called dialogic assessment. If you are unsure about what a student knows or doesn't know, what do you do as a teacher? You call them up to the board and ask them to explain it to you.
Right.
We need to now use AI to do that dialogic assessment. Students should be explaining their answers in the same way a PhD student prove their thesis by backing up that thesis.
So an exam is not 20 multiple choice. It's
not
3
a multiple
questions.
choice. It's 3 questions. If you can explain the thing well, and
Reason
you can
it out.
explain and you can reason it out, whether you get it right or wrong, we should not be interested in that.
But there's a chain of logic.
What we are interested in is the chain of logic, and what that will cause people to do more is to think critically, and that will preserve long-term memory. And that's the key to the success of this thing. We need to cause students to think more, and this is the way to do it, dialogic assessment. And it's coming. It's a research that we're doing now with Cambridge University. We're doing it in the Bahamas with the government of Bahamas, and we're also working on doing it in Jamaica as well. And this is something we plan to introduce to our teachers so that they can use it to assess students, because we can't expect a teacher to sit down and interview 30 students, right?
Right.
But the AI can have a conversation with them, and from that, the teacher will see a beautiful dashboard of who is thinking well, who is not thinking so well, and who needs your support.
And you can explore
That
in a more
teacher now
granular
can
phase.
work with that student to explore those gaps and to think with them so that we get thinkers of the future. And that's the role of the National Virtual School, which is what we're doing with the government now.
National Virtual School, is that a case study you can give us?
No, of course, I tell you. So with the National Virtual School, we have 101 schools across Jamaica. We work with the Ministry of Education of Jamaica. We put in a nice, big, beautiful screen in each classroom, one classroom in each school. And we have a teacher at a central location teaching. And so that teacher will teach a beautiful subject, right? The students on the other end, they sit and they will interact with that teacher. There's a facilitator in the classroom, right? And this is being done right now in Jamaica, So let's talk about a subject that you can't find in rural Jamaica. Let's say game design. We teach it centrally from Kingston, and we stream it to 101 school. At the end of the lesson, the students need to do what's called a skills gap test.
Right.
At the end of the test, it tells them all the skills that they're doing well on, the ones they're not doing so well on, and the ones that they're probably about average on. The teacher now, their job, instead of teaching a full lesson, is to focus on the students who are not doing so well, give the students who are doing a little better, more advanced topics, and the ones who are average, play to them. What you're doing is personalizing learning within the classroom, and then you meet the students where they are. So the ones who are here, you bring them up. The ones who are here, you send them to the moon. And that's how our education system needs to be. Personalized to the students' gaps and strengths.
And of course, giving access. I really like that example about
Absolutely.
you don't have the skill set out in the country, but you have it here.
Yeah.
And so you just pipe it.
Yeah.
All right, so you mentioned one of the downsides, that is the destruction of your ability to reason through something. Are there any other downsides that, you're concerned about?
The biggest one is the cognitive atrophy. That's what it's called, right? The weakening of those connections in your mind that was threatened through things like reading and so on, right?
Okay.
So that's really the biggest one. You have other things that exist, but I want to focus on all the things that can happen by causing someone not to think, and all the things that happen if you don't think. It's going to cause long-term memory to be affected. You know, what tends to happen now, people cram for exams and they do well on the exam.
Right.
So what you find, and what the research is showing us, is that immediately after studying, you do well on the exam, but you challenge someone 10, 20 years out, they don't understand what they have learned, and therefore they can't apply it in industry, etc. Then Jamaica gets held back.
Yeah.
So what we have to do is to flip the focus. Instead of trying to get someone to perform today on an exam that is testing your ability to remember what you studied last night, we need to teach and assess in such a way to preserve long-term memory so that we can now get students who are creating and not just memorizing and regurgitating. And what that means is that we need our creative capacity to be challenged, where students can create new industries, new things, and be a part of this global economy.
I'm going to use that as your final thought of where we're going next, AI in the education sector. Thank you for all of that insight, and this has been Get the Facts. Our guest was President and Chief Executive Officer of One-on-One Educational Services, Ricardo Allen. Thank you for watching, and until next time, I'm Theodore Henry. Take good care.